Hi, good morning. This is Anna. I'm from the Eat to Focus, the author of Eat to Focus. So this is another episode of the Eat to Focus live Q&A. We'll be doing this every Saturday morning, um, 12, 12 a.m. Pacific time. But probably it's going to change because I'm in Hawaii actually. But anyway, so today I want to talk about food allergies. The reason why I want to talk about this is a lot of people have some kind of misunderstanding between what's a food allergy and food intolerance. And understanding the difference between them, I think will benefit a lot of people to figure out what kind of food is causing some of your ADHD symptoms. So I have one patient this past week that was quite interesting. It's a teenager who's been following a pretty um, healthy kind of like diet that eliminates a lot of the common food allergens because she does have like reaction to many of the food on the list, and she was doing really well. But um, the thing is that there's some food on it that the mom or she occasionally eat, and then she kind of like, when I ask her, hey, when you eat those food that you have occasionally, how you feel? She's like, oh no, it doesn't really bother me. But the mom was the one who's like, oh, wait a minute, that's not true. So yeah, usually when she eat things like rice or corn, it's okay, but usually she doesn't have the symptoms until 3 days later. And I asked the mom, what kind of symptoms do you notice? She's like, usually you see that she's a little bit more brain foggy, not focused as well. So I was like, oh wow, okay, yeah, that's kind of like the very classic symptoms of what I call hidden food allergy in my book. And and the reason why it's called hidden allergy is because it's something that you probably eat every day, have no reaction, and then may appear like days later. So that's something that I want to talk about today is the difference between allergy and food intolerances. Because there's a huge difference between the two terms. And understanding what each one means, I think will help you significantly in your diet journey, making the changes or get you more motivated and make the changes that I talk about in my book. But anyway, so let me get started from the very basic. So, when people think about food allergy, the first thought that comes to mind is like they probably seen someone on TV. Like if you watch the movie Hitch, what's his name, Will Smith. So there's a scene of Will Smith and the girlfriend. I'm so sorry, I forgot her name, but they were in this cooking class making like all these fancy desserts, and then he ate something and then he immediately like have a reaction to it. His face all swelled up, his lips all swollen, his ears swollen. That's the type of reaction that most people think when they think of food allergy, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's what we call an immediate ig related IgE mediated reaction. So it's a true allergy because it does trigger the immune system. But on the other hand, with kids with ADHD, which I talk about in the book a lot, or actually all this are explained in the book, there's something, there's also food intolerance. So a very good example to demonstrate between a food allergy and a food intolerance is milk allergy and lactose intolerance. So a lot of people like, oh yeah, I'm allergic to milk. So I usually ask them, oh, what do you mean by you're allergic to milk? So does that mean you cannot eat milk? Anything that has milk in it, cheese, yogurt, ice cream, anything? They're like, oh no, I just can't drink milk. So the difference between a milk protein allergy and a lactose intolerance is the things that you're sensitive to. Let's use the word sensitive. So when you have a cow's milk allergy, or actually we call cow's milk protein allergies now, is when you have an allergic reaction it's usually because you're allergic to the protein in the milk. So kids, very common, kids have cow's milk protein allergy. So they're allergic. They actually have an allergic reaction to the cow's milk protein, things like whey, casein, and the other like 20 something different kind of milk protein. On the other hand, when you have a lactose intolerance, you can have similar reaction to if you have a cow's milk protein allergy. But lactose intolerance, you're intolerant to the milk sugar, lactose. And the reason why you have an intolerance is because all of us have an enzymes called lactase that breaks down the milk sugar. That that enzymes is very specific to that sugar. But as we age, that lactase, we don't make that much lactase anymore. So as we age, we get less and less tolerance to milk. So that's why a lot of people think that, oh, when I drink milk, I have gas and diarrhea. So they thought they're allergic to milk. But then they can eat things like cheese, they can eat yogurt totally fine. So that's a lactose intolerance because in cheese and yogurt, the milk are pre-digested by the bacteria, so there's not much lactose in it, so your body can handle it. But on the other hand, if you are allergic to the milk protein, the milk protein is still in cheese and still in yogurt. So if you have an allergic reaction to milk, you still have that kind of reaction. And then back to the type of different food reaction. So remember I mentioned earlier about Will Smith example of being allergic to shrimp or seafood and have a reaction right away. Sometimes, so that's actually an example of anaphylactic shocks. It could be actually life threatening and you can die. So usually patients have an EpiPen that carries with them all the time. But then there are other milder type of reaction where you don't get that kind of reaction. You still have some kind of immune response, and it might or might not be detected in the blood test. Because I get parents and even adult comes and asks, "Can I get tested?" I was like, probably it's gonna be all negative and not gonna be very useful. But anyway, back to what I was trying to talk about. So in cow's milk allergy, the symptoms are very subtle. So cow's milk allergy and lactose intolerance a lot of times share very similar um, symptoms, but there is a huge difference. Like someone like me who sees those all the time, I can tell you which one is which. But typically in infants, when they have milk protein, cow's milk allergy, the very common symptoms are projectile vomiting, constipation, blood in stool, rash. In older children, milk allergy often comes together along with asthma, eczema, ear infection. They actually call those the trifecta of milk allergy or something like that. But anyway, so those three things often comes along with like milk protein allergy. So if your child also have asthma, eczema, and common often like frequent ear infection, chances is milk is one of the issue. So that's the allergy. So intolerance. So intolerance, as the word says, is an intolerance. So you will have a reaction. You'll eat something, you'll have a reaction. Could be you feel nauseated, you want to throw up, you have stomach pain, you have gasiness, or you have a rash. But usually with intolerance or hidden food allergy, the reason why those are difficult to diagnose is because the reaction doesn't happen right away. You don't see the reaction that happens within like a couple minutes after eating the food, or um, or even a couple hours. Sometimes it takes days. Like for me, for instance, I have gluten intolerance. That takes me years to figure it out because for many years I just kind of ignore it or deny that I have it. So every so often I'll go back to eating gluten. But the thing is my symptoms doesn't get worse until the third day. So if I have bread or pasta 3 days in a row, then by the third day I'll have like really bad stomach pain. And Yeah, so that's kind of like my challenge. And after a while, I just get to a point that just smelling bread. Okay, there's a Subway in a hospital on the first floor, and they make the bread there. Like before, I used to love that smell, just like anyone else, right? The smell of bread baking in the oven smells so good. But after like many years of having that pain, after eating all that bread and stuff, I find that smell very nauseating now. It's like I don't even love bread anyway. So yeah, allergies tend to be longer to diagnose, and it's mostly because the symptoms are so hidden. So in in the Eat to Focus protocol, the first step is actually the elimination diet. So in that elimination diet, we focus on the actually the two biggest things to eliminate will be the gluten product and dairy product. So if you don't even follow the whole elimination diet protocol, those will be the first two things that I recommend that you eliminate. And then the other things, I'll talk about those later, but I want to talk about the smaller stuff first. The other thing that is eliminated from that diet is the nuts. I think seeds is okay. Nuts, what's the other thing? Oh, nuts and grains. So so we're not just eliminating one product, but also grains as well. So beans and grains, the reason why, even though they're very healthy food, like if you follow the healthy diet that your dietitian or your doctor told you that like, oh yeah, eat whole grains and eat beans because they're high in fiber and good for you. It's good for you if your gut can handle it. The problem with the grains and the beans is they have something um, that makes them very, very hard for the human intestine to digest because with the evolution, the beans and the what's that? The beans and the grains are not really meant to be easy to be digested. So there's something in it called anti-nutrition. And I think one of the ingredients, the one of the chemicals in it is lectin. So what lectin does is the reason why it's called anti nutrition is because it actually blocks the body from absorbing some of the nutrients. Even though the grains and the beans have all this wonderful stuff in it, like all these different vitamins, minerals, and things like that, but the anti nutrients, so lectins and phosphate, phos, no, phytate, and there's another one, I forgot what it was. They'll come back later. But anyway, there are substances in these food that actually blocks your body from absorbing nutrients. And then lectin actually attacks your intestine lining and cause leaky gut. So if you are someone who already have like GI symptoms like gasiness, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, all those GI symptoms, those are signs that you probably have a little bit or some form of leaky gut. So avoiding those food will actually help. But don't worry, there's like all these other food that you can have that's just as healthy for you. But anyway, so those are I think the main thing to avoid. Some people avoid also the seeds, but but let me talk about the other two bigger things. So with the beans and seeds, those are the main thing. Oh no, nuts. Oh, actually, eggs too. A lot of people are allergic to eggs. So eggs, nuts, seeds, no, egg, nuts, and beans. Those are the other things to avoid. And a lot of people will be like, "But I eat those all the time. I don't have any reaction." But going back to my patient this past week, mom actually recognized that the child was showing some change in her behavior when she was eating things like popcorn and rice. And she's not even eating a lot. She was just eating a little bit, just out of the ordinary when she have those. And there was something that I want to say. Oh, and one more thing that people often mistaken with food allergies, they often think that food allergy only manifests as a physical symptoms like swelling of the lips, face, can't breathing, rash on the skin, and things like that. But a lot of times with um, food allergy or food sensitivity, food intolerance, you also have behavioral symptoms. That's the reason why the elimination diet is the first step in the eat to focus protocol. So physical behavioral symptoms you see like either more brain foggy, fatigue, sometimes agitation, or just not feeling like yourself. Just like usually the other people can see it. If you're the one eating it, you might only notice the physical symptoms. But sometimes you'll notice that you might be more depressed or just more moody in general. So those are the behavioral symptoms. That's why like one of the things that you're supposed to do when you're on that elimination diet is actually writing down what you eat every day, the time that you have, and your GI symptoms and any behavioral symptoms or moodiness that you notice, because that way you can always go back like, oh my god, why is he like so cranky today? And then you look back like 2 days before, oh my god, he have a candy bar and I didn't realize. So that's what it's meant to be. Okay, the big thing. So probably most of you have like read pretty much everywhere that, oh yeah, so you should avoid gluten and avoid dairy products. So there's very huge reason for avoiding that. First of all, with the gluten and dairy, it's not so much an actual reaction, but more of an intolerance or a chemical reaction. So first of all, with the gluten, which comes from like wheat and stuff like that, and other gluten kind of plants. You can get the list from inside the book or on my website. I probably posted it somewhere. But with wheat and gluten, those kind of proteins are generally very difficult to digest. So one of the things or the issue is that when your body doesn't digest those protein properly, they're like semi broken chunks of protein, and some of that protein actually act more like a medication or a chemical or more like a opioid type of chemical. So it travels through your gut because your gut's kind of like not completely blocked out or sealed because of like the leaky barrier. So these bigger chunks of protein can actually goes into your bloodstream, get through to the brain blood brain barrier, and then enter the reward dopamine um, center where attached to a dopamine receptor, and and kind of trigger similar reaction like if you're on cocaine or on drugs. So those are called casomorphins, which is the partially digested casein, and the um, gluten, which is partially digested gluten. So that's one of the reasons why you want to avoid dairy and gluten in your diet. So those are really a big thing. So like people often ask, but can I get an allergy test? No, the allergy test is not going to show any of those reactions because the gluten or the casomorphin and glutendorphins are not triggering any allergic reaction. It is acting as a chemical to the brain. That's why it's not going to show up in the blood test. Second reason those things are not good for you is, first of all, in gluten, there are actually studies that show, these are small studies, but I think it's still worth noting, is these studies do show that who have people with ADHD have a higher risk of also having celiac disease, which is an autoimmune disorder. So one of the studies actually quote 15% of people with ADHD also have celiac disease, compared to only 1% in the general population. And then another studies look at the reverse. So they look at people with celiac disease and how many people also have ADHD. So, and I forgot the number of that second studies, but pretty much the same thing. So they found a lot of people who have an celiac disease also have ADHD as well. And from both studies, when they put all the subjects onto the gluten-free diet, almost everyone ADHD symptoms improve. So that's definitely a very strong and good indicator that there's something between like gluten intolerance or celiac disease and autoimmune disorder and ADHD. So, and then with the casein is more with the indigestion of the casein protein or the milk protein. So, and the other thing is kids with ADHD and also like kids with autism. Like I put them together a lot because ADHD and autism a lot of times goes together. Kids with autism tends to have ADHD. Kids with ADHD tends to also have autism. Like they quite get along together pretty frequently, and it's probably because they have the same kind of defects that causes it. It's just that the symptoms manifest differently. One manifests as autism, and the other one manifests as ADHD. But anyway, so a lot of the food part associated with treating ADHD naturally is associated with food allergy. And the other part of the of like talking about food allergy that not many people understands is they often think of food allergy as something separate. So the fact is a lot of this allergy is a result of poor digestion. So if you think about it, people don't focus on digestion too much because it's just assumption that whatever that we put in our mouth, our stomach break it down like a garbage disposal, grind up everything, and then get everything down to the basic nutrient level like the amino acid, fatty acid, glucose, vitamins, minerals. Like we just we're just so efficient that we break everything down into the basic stuff, right? But that's not the case. The thing is, a lot of people nowadays have more digestion issue because of the food that we eat and also the medication that we take, right? So take so like I said, in the ideal situation is you eat whatever that's supposed to be food, right? We're talking about real food now. And that food is supposed to be broken down to amino acid, glucose, and fatty acid because that's the nutrients that your body recognizes and can use. But if your digestion is not that good, then you eat all these even healthy foods like non-GMO stuff, all clean, all like no pesticides and stuff. If the food doesn't get digested to those basic nutrients, your body cannot use it. So you ended up with all these big chunks of protein that your body's like, oh my God, what's all this coming in? I don't recognize it. So because your body doesn't recognize it, it triggers an immune reaction. And that's why like a lot of adults, like they've been eating like mushroom forever in their life or eating chicken forever in their life. Suddenly, like they're just allergic to everything. Like I have this patient, she's like 50 something years old. She's allergic to all of a sudden, she's allergic to almost everything. Even her insulin, she's allergic to. So she can't even have her diabetes medications. So we have to put her on a low carb diet. But she's allergic to all the protein, so all the chicken, shrimp, everything, and then a lot of different other things. So for her, she actually have to take like a allergy medicine when she's eating just to keep the symptoms down. So with her, um, she's actually getting better. I put her on that elimination diet, and she said it's helping her a lot. She, it's just a long healing process for her though because she just has so much like all her symptoms have been with her for over 30 years. So it's just that her body is just tearing down. But anyway, going back to digestion, what it is so basically is when your digestion is not good, the food that you eat is not being broken down properly. So you ended up with all this foreign protein in your body, and that's triggering the, the immune system. And yeah, and that's how people develop like food allergies later in life is because of all these weird things going into your system. So the only way to correct all that is basically to correct your digestion, making sure that you're eating food that your body can break down, and also making sure that your body have the digestive capacity. So like making sure that your stomach have enough stomach acid, you're making enough digestive enzymes to break down stuff. So, and also eating all the healing food that can help patch your guts together and also for your body to make enzymes. So that all goes along digestion, food sensitivities, and then the elimination diet. So that's how all like kind of the basics of the eat to focus protocol. So you eliminate all the food that cause reaction. So that way it helps your body, give your body time to calm down without that outside insult. And then the second will be eating the right kind of food that your body can digest. So you can actually get the vitamins, the nutrients, minerals, amino acid, fatty acid, and glucose that your body can need or can recognize and use to function normally and to create the digestive enzymes and the stomach acid to break down food and absorb food. And then the third is yeah, fixing the digestion with enzymes. So sometimes, like for some of my patients, I do recommend, what do I recommend? I recommend digestive enzymes to help them with breaking down food, especially like the ones who said that, oh yeah, I can eat chicken or fish fine, but when I eat red meat, it just tears up my stomach. So that's like my ear pricking moment. I was like, oh, so you can eat all these other stuff, but you cannot eat meat. That's a red flag for me that there's something wrong with the digestion. So you usually have them stay off of any kind of red meat. Oh, another thing I want to bring up is that sometimes people think that, oh my God, but my diet is so restricted. I cannot have this, cannot have that. Okay, look at it this way. If you eat nuts and you have a reaction, that's your body telling you that I don't like nuts. The nuts is upsetting me. So you need to listen to your body. You don't listen to your health, like doctors or whoever, even if I tell you eat nuts because it's good. And nothing wrong with nuts. Like I love nuts. I eat that every day. But if you eat nuts and you have a reaction, you have a skin rash, your throat or your mouth getting itchy, that's your body telling you that I don't like it, it's hurting me, so you need to stop it. So that's another thing that's very important, is that we need to learn to listen to our body. Like there's a lot of very good health advice out there, but it doesn't apply to everybody. That's the reason why I designed that this elimination diet to eliminate a lot of this food so your body can heal. When your body is healed up and ready to accept those food, you can always bring those food back. But eh, if whatever food that you brings back in your diet and your body is still reacting to it, it's your body says, I just don't like it. Please don't give it to me. Okay, so that's what the elimination diet is. It's not a forever diet. It is a healing therapeutic diet that you stay on for 3 months, depending on how your symptoms resolve. You stay on that diet for, I'll recommend at least minimum 1 month, and then ideally 2 or 3 months until you have most of the symptoms improved. Then you're like, okay, I feel so much better now. Let's try put something back in at a time. So you start with like maybe putting some eggs in, and the next week you put some nuts back in, and just wait and see what happens. Sometimes people get discouraged with doing the elimination phase because they're like, oh, I've been on this diet for like a month or two now, but I don't feel anything different. Then that's fine. Then go ahead and put some of the food back in. But this is the time that they feel like, oh my God, like this whole time I took all this food off and I don't feel anything. I just feel like normal. But when they start putting some of the food back in, like the bread stuff or the milk stuff, then that's when they are like, oh my God, I think I can have those, because sometimes being on the elimination diet, you feel good. So you just think that, oh yeah, I don't think the diet is helping. But it's when you start putting the food back in, that's you're like, oh my God, I don't think I'm supposed to have this anymore. So yeah, so that's how you do the elimination diet. There's actually another very interesting way that you can check for food tolerance, and it's called muscle testing. And I didn't talk about that in the food, but in the book, but it's something that I'm actually updating my book right now. So I'm going to have the new updated version hopefully early next year. So that kind of information will be included. and it's gonna be so much more fun with like muscle testing. It's like um, it's so much better than other food allergy testing because with a lot of the allergy testing, I'm pretty sure many of you have that done. Like you have the skin test, you have the blood test, everything comes back negative. But every time you eat something, you're like, oh my God, like I have a reaction to that. Like I have a patient a few years back. She's struggling with weight, right? So one of the things that she mentioned, she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm allergic to almonds," but she still eat almonds. So I was like, "But you're allergic to it." So we took her off almonds, and next month she lost a lot of weight. It's because her body, she keep putting in things that her body doesn't like and doesn't recognize. So she's actually hurting her body because she thinks that, oh yeah, almond is good. Almond is healthy. Everyone says almond is good for me. I'll eat it, even though she knows she's allergic to it. So, but anyway, um, that's kind of my little spiel on food allergies and food intolerance. This is actually one of the topics that I'm very passionate about because, as some of you know or have followed me for a while, I'm a pediatric dietitian who works with doctors in the clinic, and I get a lot of referral for kids with projectile vomiting, formula intolerance, can't tolerate breast milk, and yeah, so I discovered a lot of food allergy or milk protein allergy that doctor missed. Because doctors are trained that, oh yeah, you have vomiting, let's start you on reflex medication. So I get a lot of babies coming to me like 4, 5, 6 months old, sometimes even younger with like what they diagnose with as reflux, they're projectile vomiting, and they're put on stomach acid reducing or suppressant. Then when they come talk to me, I ask a few questions like, "Oh, how's the vomiting? Is it projectile or just leaking on the side? Does your baby also have like constipation, blood in the stool? Let me look at the skin of your baby." And I was like, "Yeah, I think your child have like milk protein allergy." And I switched them to a different formula. And then next visit, or actually days later, the mom was like, "Oh my God, this is miracle! The vomiting stopped and the blood in the poop stopped." So yeah, so that's why I'm very passionate about that because I'm able to help a lot of people just make that simple change and then get them off medication and stop all those symptoms and growing and turn back into a happy baby again. So, but anyway, um, yeah, I think that's all I have today. And then I'll see you guys back next week. Remember, this is every Saturday until I'm going to change that. But it's going to be every Saturday. I'm in Hawaii. So it's going to be 10 o'clock in the morning, Hawaii time. Right now, it's going to be 12 p.m. Pacific. And then I think 2 Central time and 3. I might be wrong. I have to check again. But don't worry. Just go to the not the website, but the Facebook page or check your email if you're on my email list. But I try to um, send out all those information everywhere that's convenient for you guys. And I'll try to have this on replay as well. And I'm gonna put this on YouTube. So yeah, okay. And send me your questions or comment below so I know what you think, what questions you have. Okay, bye.